And at some future date, you'll be able to join us. But one way you can definitely join us is by making a pledge to Radiothon. We'll get into that momentarily. I'm Matt Mankiewich, joined tonight by Ken Fermin until midnight. And usual discussions about the Seawolves and everything else going on. The Rangers and Devils are in a shootout right now, and they are in the 6th round of the shootout at Madison Square Garden. But that we will save for the second hour. We were going to talk about football, Seawolves football in particular, to start things off. But something else happened in the meantime. Number one, the Seawolves women's basketball team had a nice win at the Island Federal Credit Union Arena against St. John's, Big East team. Meanwhile, the New Jersey Institute of Technology was in Madison, Wisconsin, defeating the Badgers. So, 2 power conference victories for the America East, not just one. I mean, we'll start with our own team, Ken, but this is, I can't think of anywhere, anytime, in any sport that something like this has happened, which is why it's got to go first.
So, first off, it's an incredible accomplishment. Hats off to both teams. This too in women's programs, which are really starting to hit that next level over the past few years, especially the Stony Brook team, who we know already, reigning defending champs in the America East. But focusing on Stony Brook, this was a women's team who they only ever got the chance to play Power 5 conference teams 10 times in their D1 history over the last 20-ish, 25 years. So there's not a lot of experience there. And they were 0-10 for a long time. But over the past couple seasons, they've managed to go, I think, 4-2 with losses to the Arkansas Razorbacks, who are number 25 ranked, and to Arizona back in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, they've been on a roll against power conference teams, man.
Yeah, and it tells you something. Number one, in women's basketball, we used to say that there were, and I wouldn't even say power conferences, there were only power programs. You had your top 5 and then a big drop-off after that. You had your Tennessees, you had your UConns, you had your Louisiana Techs, you had your, these handful of top women's programs sprinkled around the country, and even established conferences didn't pay a lot of attention to their women's basketball programs. Thank God that has changed. But it also means that mid-majors can sneak in. And Stony Brook definitely did that today.
Yeah, big win for the women today against the St. John's Red Storm. And honestly, with their recent success, not only the past couple seasons, but this season alone, entering the game, they were 2-0 on the season under new coach Ashley Langford, and they were averaging just around 80 points to start, or rather over 80 points to start the season. So they only managed to win 72-60. But that said, I thought they played phenomenally throughout the game, especially, as you said, against power conference team number 1. But just number 2, you're really starting to see the system in place that Coach Langford has developed. And, I predicted in our preview last week, it was going to be very guard-oriented, guard-dominated. And it has been for the most part. Look at your lead scorers for most of the games. And it's really been Anastasia Warren leading this team get into the basket, both inside and outside. Gigi Gonzalez also really stepping up. But we've seen India Pagan also. Exactly, yeah. And we've seen India Pagan forward really continue to display her dominance inside the paint as well, being unstoppable on the post. And honestly, I think she's becoming more of a playmaker because if teams start to double her, she starts to turn to a wide open player like an Anastasia Warren, like a Gigi Gonzalez.
Well, this is also true. Whenever you have a change in coaches, you have the new coach, unless that coach is promoted from an assistant, your new coach basically running a team of the previous coach's players. And you have to adapt your strategy to what you have until what you want comes into play as you recruit.
Yeah, we saw that on the men's side with Gino Ford for the past couple seasons.
Oh,
and
definitely.
really his first season where he has a roster he can pick from.
But the nice thing, well, in Gino Ford's case, at the very least, he did come in as an assistant under Jeff Bowles. So he did have a little bit of input over his roster. So it was kind of his guys, but also they weren't there that long, so they still had some of Steve Pikiel's players in there. Yeah, Bowles was in and out. And now Gino Ford is able to settle down and build the program the way he wants it. And every time you have a coaching change, it takes about 2-3 years before you start seeing that coach's impact on the roster. But the great thing about it is, if you have great guards, well, that's the type of game you need to play.
Yeah, and it has been working for the Seawolves team. 3 games so far, outscoring their opponents 241 to 169. That's a per game average of 80 points to 56, plus 24 scoring margin. And it's not like they're just doing it one way, again, to the free throw line. Although they are shooting 75% from the charity stripe. They're doing a great job on the pick and rolls, spacing out, really targeting, I think, the left side of the courts of the wing and in that offensive zone, creating space, as I said, using those screens, some pick and roll plays to get those guards wide open, either down under the basket or up the middle. Which, again, going back to Anastasia Warren, she's played phenomenally. She's been everywhere on the box score. Look at her shooting 50% on the season so far, averaging 18 points per game, and is doing pretty good dishing out assists, grabbing boards.
But it also means that they're playing a more traditional type of game. I mean, Look, the pick and roll, when properly executed, is unstoppable. Stockton and Malone, most notably. They had a nice 20-year career together just doing that. But the only thing that, well, actually, I'll look at the box score. Before I come to a conclusion, because the way the game has evolved for both men and women, do you envision there being an issue with 2 instead of 3?
No, this women's team, because they're still taking about 8 threes per game, which is 3 more than their opponents are, although their opponents not really having the ball as much as this women's Stony Brook program is. But, they're still averaging about 30 field goals per game. So, you look at them attempting 8 per game and seeing them take about 30 shots overall, or rather making 30 shots overall. So, you know that about a third of that offense is going to be on the 3. And again, as I said, with these guards, they're so crafty that they're good inside and out. We saw today Gigi Gonzalez knocked down a 3 and got the foul. So they've been playing for 4 points more often than 3 as of late. And Gigi Gonzalez has done a real good job as well. Behind Annie Warren, 46% from 3. And 11 of 30 overall on the short season. Just still good for
cannot fault that.
36%. Yeah. She's really been getting to the charity stripe as well, because she's been great at cutting down low and forcing the forwards to come pick her up. And they're a step behind because they're bigger. So she uses that speed to get inside and draw contact. 12 of 15 from the charity stripe.
Tell you what, though, that defense, 29.7% shooting for St. John's. 18.2 from 3, which means they're guarding the perimeter well. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it was consistent as well. That second quarter especially, you really saw it. Red Storm shot less than 20%. They went 0 of 6 from 3 because there was always a body on them. There's always a hand in their face, whether it was Earlette Scott, Annie Warren, Leah Maury Wolf, for example. Those 3, I remember in particular, being key on the wing beyond the arc and prohibiting St. John's from getting a good look beyond the arc, rather. And they tried. It was still a close game, for much of that first half. But that second half, I thought that's really, that third quarter especially, that's really where they took it to them. Outscored St. John's 19-17 in the third quarter, and they led with 59-46, and it continued to grow from there.
Now it gets even more interesting. Okay, Seawolves have 1 power conference win so far. And of course, you only have as many power conference wins as you have power conference games. But the next one is a power conference game. In particular, they get Rutgers on Tuesday.
Yeah, this team is busy, Matt. As you said, this would be their fourth actual game, not including the exhibition against the Delphi, but fourth game in about 10 days. Or rather, fourth game in a week, rather.
November 5th through November 14th, 9 days.
Yeah, there you go. 5 games. Well, including the exhibition, that's 5 games in about 9 days. So, they've been playing. They haven't let off. Really, they haven't looked tired, I think, is the most important part. And that's a good sign, especially as we get later in the season, that fatigue starts setting in. But no, as you said, they're going to be playing a Rutgers team, which also looks good on paper as well to start the season. And that's at Rutgers as well. So they're going to get their second experience on the road after defeating Longwood 82-63 on Friday.
And Rutgers is a traditional power. Okay. They've been to a few Final Fours. They've never won it all. Of course, at least in our region, they have UConn to deal with. They're always in the way. But they're strong.
Yeah, and this is go ahead.
Yeah, this is not going to be a cakewalk.
Exactly. This is going to be a test, the biggest test for the Seawolves as well, because Rutgers, another team that's 3-0. They are, I think, even better than Stony Brook defensively. I think of the two, Stony Brook has the edge on offense, but defensively, it has to go to Rutgers. I think it's held its third consecutive opponent well under their scoring average, and they just do a really good job, I think, on the trap, especially in the perimeter. Just getting two girls, just flanking whoever has the ball, and force them to either pass out or to strip the ball away and get a turnover. And obviously, it's been a factor in their 3 victories, including their one today against Fairfield, 48-42. Notice these are low-scoring games, so I don't see Stony Brook dropping 80 on the Scarlet Knights.
But you never know. But C. Vivian Stringer is is a Hall of Fame level coach. She won Women's College Coach of the Year 1 year. She's been in the Hall of Fame since 2009, and she's up there among the top coaches in women's basketball overall.
Yeah. And they have experience. Good. Now they have experience against her as well, Matt.
They played officially the coach. But
here's
the thing: there's a side story going on here too, because she's going to miss the upcoming season because of COVID-19 concerns.
Right.
I'm trying to see who is going to be filling in for her. It will be the top assistant, I'm sure. But she just signed a 5-year extension in April. They lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament to BYU last year.
So of course, acting head coach Timothy Eatman. Yeah.
Yeah, but she returned from a 6-week pause for the virus, and you know what? She's 73 years old. So
can't blame her.
She's got to be, super careful. But
yeah, exactly.
1,055 wins in her 50-year coaching career, 4th all-time. Incredible. And she was about to start her 17th. Tim Eatman, as you said, is the associate head coach and will continue in that role. But again, her team, she built it.
Yeah. But of course, he's a big factor in the mindset of that team, and it obviously hasn't hindered them at all with 3-0 start.
Absolutely. And keeping it in the family, especially in this case, especially when she did sign a 5-year deal and is expected to return at some point. So, but it is going to be very interesting just from that point of view. That's a very interesting side story about one of the top coaches in women's college basketball history. Now,
agreed. And it's worked.
The men, it's been pretty quiet. They got the one game in, and they went down to the Patriot Center in Virginia, took on George Mason, lost that one, but it doesn't get any easier because this week they got Kansas. But you were saying...
It looked like Stony Brook offense in that game against George Mason because they were not able to get a roll in Tuesday night. You remember Julia Jenkins, he had that floater to start the season on the right foot, make it 2-0 in Stony Brook's favor, and that was about it for a long time. George Mason didn't waste that much time expanding their advantage, taking as high as 10 points in the opening 20 minutes. And even though the Seawolves, they did respond, they scored 4 of the last 5 points of the first half to go down 35-28 entering the locker room. Just the offense, I thought, it really faltered in that second half. Shooting wasn't there, and the defense as well wasn't able to stop George Mason. They were able to pull away, win 74-52.
Now, as we said, this is going to be a hell of a collegiate experience for anyone involved because this is Kansas. They call it the James Naismith Court. Okay? James Naismith invented the game of basketball. Soon after he invented it in Springfield, Massachusetts, he became a professor and a coach, obviously, at Kansas, which is why Kansas became one of the earliest established programs. And then under Fog Allen and then Larry Brown and on throughout their history, have Wilt Chamberlain there. This is not just a traditional power, but a traditional power with one of the longest histories in basketball. And when you're going there to play, especially if you're a mid-major doing it for the first time, this is something that you remember.
Oh, yes. And that too, NBA level talent. This Kansas men's team already off to a great 2-0 start. They were averaging 87.5 points per game, plus 19 on the scoring margin, and shooting 53% on the season. And a big reason for that is Ache Agabji, who has been great inside, shooting 60%. It's good from the three-point range as well, 6-13 overall. But he is a big body, and he gets his buckets, Matt.
And the Seawolves, on the other hand, no Jameel Warney to answer.
No.
You see, that's one thing. Back 5 years ago, when they faced Kentucky in the NCAA, Jameel Warney earned their respect. He had a good game. I mean, obviously they were overwhelmed by Kentucky's depth, but he made such an impression that the NBA started taking a look at him. So we're not quite there yet with these guys, but it's one of those usual, get through it healthy and enjoy the experience.
Well, it's going to be great to serve as, a reminder of what they're aiming for. As, aesthetically, if the seedings align, this could be a matchup in the NCAA tournament if both teams manage to win it all in their conferences.
This is true. I mean, if Kansas gets, if they stay at number 3, for example, they'll probably get a top seed in the region.
Right.
And if Stony Brook wins the America East, well, no. The America East has been getting a lot of respect.
They've
if
been
Vermont
13
or Stony Brook win, they'll get a 15 or a 16, maybe even a 13.
Yeah.
But let's say a mid-pack school somehow pulls out the tournament, they'll get a play-in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, it's not like he waved the red flag already. We saw today, NJIT on the women's side, they pull off the upset against Wisconsin. Anything's possible. But for this men's team, I really want to see them start to excel from 3. They shot 3 a lot more in this game compared to most games last season, but only knocked down 21% of their shots and only shot 34% for the game. And that's probably going to go down against the Jayhawks as well. So they're not going to have that many opportunities to be in it, I think. So they got to make the most of it, especially from beyond the arc.
I'll tell you something. If they do get hot, look out. Because, the three-pointer is the equalizer, okay? Now, of course, good teams usually have good three-point shooting, especially these days. But if Stony Brook gets hot from 3, it becomes a much more interesting game. And we're going to bring it to you. The guys aren't going to travel. They're going to be doing it from the studio, but we are going to bring that game to you live on WUSB. And you can also follow it on whatever streaming services strikes your fancy. ESPN Plus will be carrying it from Lawrence, Kansas. But we will have it for you here on WUSB as well.
For free.
Now, go ahead. For free.
No,
that's
for free. Yeah. And the big reason for that is through pledges, donations, keeping this commercial.
That's right. one thing I do have to bring up, folks, is that one reason why we can't go is because we have to finance that ourselves, which means in order to do that, we have to raise more Radiothon money. So we don't have that yet, so we have to make do now. But at some future date, we have a big game, and somebody comes through big, we may be able to pull something off. But what's most important for as far as Radiothon, because Ken, you just mentioned it, is that we've been bringing this to you on a voluntary basis with no budget for as long as WSB's been on the air, which on FM, it's 40-plus years. On AM, it's 60-plus. Okay, wow. So we go back to the early 1960s. And one thing that's been a constant, in particular, basketball. That is the one sport that has been the constant on WUSB since before I was here. We had a club football program until 1983, so that wasn't it. We were doing basketball long before that. So basketball's been Stony Brook's thing for all these years, and Raleigh Massimino was a coach back in 1970 or so before he took an assistant's job with Chuck Daly at Penn and then became the Villanova coach. The important thing here is if you support the Seawolves, you should be supporting us. And we're not asking for much. $5 a month, $60 a year. Okay? If a bunch of you do that, there are a lot of things we can do with that money. So please, WSB.FM to pledge online if you're not already using it to listen to the stream. If you are listening to the stream, the link's right there. 631-632-6901 to leave a message, or 631-632-WSB to leave a message for us to call you back, and we'll take down your information and find out what kind of swag you want. What's on offer, by the way? You can get a baseball cap. You can get a coffee mug, T-shirt, sweatshirt, depending on what level you pledge at. And all of them, except maybe the coffee mug, can be worn at a game. So if you're really cool, you wear your Seawolves red, wherever, your coat or your scarf or whatever, and your WUSB swag piece of choice along with it. So you wear your Seawolves shirt and your WSB hat and show your support for not only the Seawolves, but for the people who bring you the Seawolves and have been doing it dependably for decades. You know, this other stuff, Flow Sports, ESPN Plus, it comes and it goes. And it's there, and we like it because we get to watch too, especially road games. But the fact of the matter is you can't watch it in your car, or if you do watch it in your car, you're going to hit something. So the radio has never really gone away. Everybody, every professional team, every major college team always has radio available. And they never, some people do think that nobody listens to games on the radio anymore. That's not true. Because the one thing you can do while listening to the radio is anything else. Drive, work, watch another game, anything, and not lose your concentration, especially if the game is called correctly. So, with that, and again, can't run commercials, folks. We have to rely on the listeners for support to keep that transmitter running, to keep the rent up to date, so you can listen on Long Island or on the stream. And nowadays, I mean, newer cars, you can listen to the stream using your built-in sound system. You don't have to plug your phone in. Although there is an interface with that too. Okay, you got Apple or Android in many cases available through your phone in your car, Bluetooth, the whole works. So you can listen to the stream in your car if the signal isn't any good, or if you're outside the range. In
And I
any
think the
case.
best, I think
Go
the best
ahead.
part of the club is the opportunities it gives student broadcasters, like it did yesterday. So I'm calling the game from Villanova Stadium, and it
Right.
may not go in Seagull's favor, but that's a memory that wouldn't have been possible without it, and one they won't forget and are thankful for.
Well, that's another important thing because we want to not just compete on the court. Stony Brook as a university wants to compete with other schools for talent. So this is part of something that we want to do. We want to make Stony Brook, if you want to be a sportscaster, a journalist, a writer, a TV presenter, an anchor, a reporter, whatever you want to be, we want Stony Brook to be on your short list and maybe at the top of that list. That means putting together a program where you learn the ropes and you come out of it able to work professionally. And I see it. I see guys fresh out of Fordham getting into jobs. I see our guys doing it. Look what Jim Furchland and Zach Wilson have been able to do. So you learn things here. And that's another good reason to support the station because, again, ironically enough, the journalism department isn't giving us any money. We're doing this ourselves. We're building it from nothing, with nothing. So a little bit of something is always better than nothing. So call in, pledge online, mention sports when you do it so we get credit. And please, come up with that $5 a month. Again, $10 a month, $120 a year. I mean, $120 might be a lot to put up front. $10 a month, not necessarily. Think about it, folks.
Yeah.
The impact, a little goes a long way with WUSB. And I think
great.
It's a good investment.
Yeah,
now,
it's a great impact for sure for, as I said, student broadcasters. In hindsight, it may not have been the best game to travel to in inclement weather conditions, especially in that first half, battling the rain and wind, not only affecting broadcasters, but Villanova and Stony Brook as well.
That's November football. What can I tell you? The autumn wind is a Raider. But speaking of which, high hopes going into Villanova. Maybe a little too high because Villanova is a top 10 team in FCS, and Villanova is no joke. They will probably win the CAA at this point, even give James Madison a run for their money, and
Jamie
will probably be in the football championship. So they've got a shot at winning it all, and they showed why yesterday.
Absolutely. It was a close game for sure, but once the conditions started to clear up, you saw, no question, who the better team was, and that was Villanova. Just the talent on that team is honestly unmatchable, with the exception of, as we said, JMU. But even then, seeing Justin Covington, who torched the Seawolves last time out, take it 83 yards virtually from their end zone to Stony Brook's on the second drive of the third quarter. That was pretty much the icing on the cake for the Wildcats, as they were able to turn that into 26 unanswered from the final minute of the second quarter through the middle of the fourth. And offensively, as I said, on the ground, they had the best. It was between them and Stony Brook, who has the best ground game. And no questions, that tandem of Covington and Jackson are the best running backs and tandem in the CAA.
Just for the record, 175 total yards for the Seawolves, 351 for Villanova. Neither team threw the ball because of the weather. 69 yards versus 76. Dead heat. But look at those rushing yards for Nova. 275 to 106. There you are, right there. Even the time of possession was only slightly in Nova's favor. 31-31 versus 28-29. Toss a coin. But definitely not reflective of the margin of victory. Okay, that implies a closer game. But Nova just ran the ball down Stony Brook's throats and dominated, especially in the second half.
Yeah, that second half was the end of it there. And as you said, just defense had no answers. This defense, which really was the lifeblood of this Stony Brook team, just had no answers that second half. And it's credible. Just honestly, I thought it could have been called a lot better, number one, but it honestly, I think it was that wake up call. Not for the team, for a lot of folks too, in terms of, just seeing the Seawolves team. We know they're going to run the ball, and there still really wasn't much of an answer, for maybe every third down stop you get, the offense is pretty much lifeless, and you punt the ball over, and Villanova answers with a huge run that ultimately sets up a touchdown, or a huge run that gets the touchdown. I mean, it was really all Villanova once the weather cleared up.
Just taking a look at the overall stats here and Tyquell Fields, 4 for 18, 42 yards. Again, Villanova didn't throw the ball much or well at all either. But basically not a factor. I mean,
I think in Slayer's case, you wish Fields threw it a little less. 4 for 18, only 42 yards. I mean, his backup, Josh Zymek, got half that in two passes.
He actually tried to run the ball himself. 7 attempts for 12 yards.
Yeah, he did get a touchdown, though.
Yeah, he did run it himself for 1 TD. Jaden Cook ran in the other. But Tyson Lawton, 19 for 76, not great for him either. Net 71, no TDs. So, the one strength of Stony Brook's offense, Villanova was able to keep in check. Meanwhile, on the flip side of things, as you said, Justin Covington, 13 carries for 143 yards. That's an average of 11 yards a carry.
Yeah, he was just getting
one of 183-yard play, which made up for a lot of it. But
yeah, but take that away, he's still getting about 6 on the ground.
Jalen Jackson, 11 for 107. And he only had 129-yard play, so he really did grind out that yardage. And there you go. That's most of your yardage there. 275 yards overall. You're not going to win giving up that much rushing yardage, and Seawolves didn't.
Yeah, agreed. And with it, cements a losing season overall for the Seawolves, regardless of what happens next week against UAlbany. Could still play for the tie in conference, and they're virtually eliminated, but I don't believe they're technically eliminated yet. There's still plenty of teams, 3-4 and 4-3 in the CAA outside of Villanova and JMU who aren't.
Well, you take a look at those standings. JMU and Villanova, as you said, at the top at 6-1. Rhode Island, William & Mary, and Elon are all 4-3. Delaware, Maine, Richmond, Stony Brook, and Towson are all 3-4, with 1 week left in the season. So your top 2 are locked down. Everything else is a free-for-all.
Yeah, exactly. And for Stony Brook, I think to even have a chance, obviously you got to beat UAlbany, but hope that a lot of those other 4-3 teams lose, and in particular, Maine, Delaware winning, as well as Rhode Island losing. That's maybe the best shot you have at that, because you have the win-loss percentage. You have the head-to-head win over Maine, Delaware. And with a URI loss, also factoring into that, because seeing the 3 tiebreaker scenarios, the ELL chess computation, that's not going to go in Stony Brook's favor. And a win-loss record versus highest-placed common opponents obviously doesn't help Stony Brook, just with their recent loss against Villanova, as well as the loss to Richmond.
And there you go. So, now, here's the next crazy thing. UAlbany is Stony Brook's final opponent. It will be at Laval Stadium. It will be played on Saturday. It'll be our final football game of the season, most likely, barring some miracle in which they get into the playoffs. But most importantly, Albany's hot. They've won 2 in a row after losing out prior to that. Those 2 wins are their only 2 wins of the season, but they're getting hot at the wrong time for the Seawolves. So this is no cakewalk again. I use that term over and over again, but this is a game the Seawolves have to take seriously for pride at the very least. And also because those slim outside chances.
Yeah. Big trophy of player, of course. Yeah, the Golden Apple in play, of course, as tradition.
Yep.
But Albany, as you said, coming off a win against the Morgan State Bears, not a conference game, a very rare non-conference game late in the season, but can definitely be used as a tune-up for this team, especially heading into the game against Stony Brook. So, they're taking it seriously for sure. And as we said, running game, Stony Brook had no answer for. And for Albany, their leading scorer was their running back, Carl Mofor, leading the way with 3 rushing touchdowns, as well as a pretty good defensive showing, especially with Jared Verse. Their defense has been getting a couple of sacks in the outing.
So, time is running out, folks. You have one more chance to watch the Seawolves and cheer them on at Laval Stadium this year. Matter of fact, with soccer done, and lacrosse has played all its fall stuff, it's going to be pretty quiet there. I think we still have some high school championships to do at Laval, but that's going to be it until lacrosse starts up in February. That's
right. Yeah, everything's going to be happening at IFC Arena or the rinks if you're a sport and hockey club.
Thank you for mentioning that, because we will be doing Friday's game. We finally will get a game that doesn't conflict with another game we have to do, and we're going to get that game in. But let's take a quick look while we are still in the first hour of the show at the hockey team, because they, as always, were busy this weekend.
Oh, yeah, scoring goals. That was the name of the game for them. Another dominating performance against Syracuse. Syracuse had no answer really from the opening puck drop. I mean, it only took the Orange 13 seconds to commit, honestly, what was a really dumb penalty, which ultimately led to the Seawolves getting the lead in the first game on Saturday night and never looking back.
Well, 8-0. So they're keeping up with their average. Last night, well, they won their first 2 games at Syracuse that opened up the season by identical 8-1 scores. Mm-hmm. So they do it again. Now, today's game, I'm looking for a score here.
9-1.
Game day versus 9-1. Okay, so they went above their average. There you go. But I'm thinking Syracuse is going to be out for revenge, but the talent level just isn't there for them. And the Seawolves able to prevail. Again,
yeah, Seawolves controlling the puck the whole game, both games, 49-13 shot on goal for Stony Brook on Saturday, and earlier today, 51-22. Syracuse leaned away with 33 penalty minutes. But for the Seawolves, I thought their best showing on offense was power plays. Saturday converted 4 out of 5 power play opportunities to get half of the 8 goals scored against the Orange, and today converting on 3.
That's amazing. Even against a not-so-good team. Because you still have to coordinate, you still have to pass, you still have to execute, you still have to run the play. And they did.
Yeah, pretty easily, too, honestly. All they really had to do was press the Orange against the wall, and they lose possession. Syracuse really didn't threaten too much, didn't really get in their zone too much in either game. Ultimately, they were able to find the back net once in that secondary game, but Syracuse again had no answers, and they just made a lot of really bad penalties. Starting from that opening puck drop when Sam Hutchinson made a really random elbow penalty on Brandon Pepe from behind the cage, just 10 seconds in. No reason to be doing that, unless you got an axe to grind, which is the wrong way to do it. Syracuse forgot who, but today they had someone ejected with Major trying to incite a fight when they were down 5-1. I mean, I get frustrations, but frustration is embarrassing at this point.
When you're averaging slightly more than 8 goals against a team, it can get pretty frustrating pretty quick.
Yeah.
moving ahead, the Seawolves will be doing a home and home. So they'll be taking on Drexel on Friday, November 19th, which is the game we're doing. And then they will be going to Philadelphia, class of 1923 Arena, it's called. And they'll play Drexel on the road there. Now, it's an interesting sequence of events here because they will get a bye the following week. And that, of course, is Thanksgiving. So they will not play Thanksgiving weekend. No Black Friday games or anything like that. They go back into action December 3rd and 4th at Delaware. And then that's it. Finals. Yeah, remember, one big difference between a club program and an NCAA program is that you still have to make the grades. You still have to study. You still have to take finals. So they take off. December 4th is the last game of calendar 2021 for this team. And then they go back into action January 8th against Delaware at home. And that will be 8th and 9th at the rinks against Delaware. And I believe we have at least one of those games scheduled. Yeah. And then Ohio U, and then Liberty comes back, which that should be really good because Liberty is the toughest team they face so far. And Liberty is the only one that's really giving them problems. Liberty swept them last weekend. So that's going to be something to circle on your calendar. If you don't get a chance to see them any other time, watch them play Liberty. So
yeah, this men's team is 11-2-1 to start the season, playing phenomenal hockey. As I said, power play has really been their strong point. As I said, cashing in on 8 of their 11 opportunities this weekend. They're having key players like Charles Peck, 3 goals, 5 assists. Andrew Mancini, 6 assists, 5 of them being first assists. There is no lack of depth in terms of playmaking and goal scoring ability. A lot of deflection goals as well we saw in that first game against Syracuse. They honestly just the puck is like a magnet to the back of the net when Stony Brook is playing in the offensive zone as well. We're running their offense from the top of the blue line and honestly just finding key players open on the left zone wing. They really connected and have played phenomenally so far. And again, going against a team like Drexel, who have back-to-back wins, just beat Delaware in a shootout, won their last game as well off shootout as well. That was NYU. So, this team is on a roll. You're going to see 2 hot teams. And for Stony Brook, the Dragons, they can score. They got 5 goals ultimately in the 5-4 win yesterday against NYU. So, you're not going to be winning 8-0, but for the Seawolves, it's going to be about drawing those penalties and capitalizing like they've been doing this season.
Absolutely. So, lots of variation, I should say, diversity in our program for the coming week. Because what you got going for you now, you've got, first off, you're going to have men's basketball at Kansas. Then you got Friday night hockey. Then you got football. And then it's going to be basketball and hockey the rest of the way. But it's going to be a lot of fun. WSB.FM/sports is the place to find out all the latest. Okay, we're going to have the rest of the schedule updated. We only have it right now up until January 23rd. We'll be adding more to it as everything gets finalized. There is one TBA. The December 22nd men's basketball game at Florida. Have they come up with a time for that yet? Let's take a quick look because that was a TBA for a long time. And I'm just going to take a quick look here on the official schedule on StonyBrookAthletics.com. It is 2 p.m. Okay. Which is Wednesday, December 22nd at 2 p.m. I believe Johnny Wincot's going to be making a trip down there because I believe he's going down there anyway. So he's going to be doing that with us. So But here we go. Men's basketball, as we said, Kansas will only be their second game of the season, but right out of the coming weekend, they're very busy because they've got Monday, November 22nd, they got Sacred Heart. Everybody takes off for Thanksgiving. Sunday after Thanksgiving, you got the women against St. Francis of Brooklyn. Men are home against American a couple of days later. A couple of days after that, they got Wagner. Women have Marist and Penn. Men have Bryant. And that's just the home games that we're doing because, as seems to be the habit around here, is that even outside the conference schedule, there are conflicts. Like, for example, we had the Tuesday women's home opener. Well, the men were in George Mason. So, which game we do? We're doing the women's home opener. So, and that's one thing that we can't do. We can't, if anything right now, when it comes to making a choice between airing a men's game and a women's game, if one's facing a bigger opponent, then we make a choice. Otherwise, we go with the home game because both teams are strong. Both teams are picked to win their conferences. And for us, it's a can't-lose proposition, whichever one we air.
That's right. It's going to be a fun week. No, that's absolutely right. It's a fun schedule this season, more so now than ever. And unfortunately, couldn't do volleyball, although they're going to be playing their postseason games starting this Thursday against top-ranked UMBC. That's going to be fun, seeing two explosive offenses there. But at the same time, there's a lot to look forward to for men's basketball, women's basketball, and hockey.
Well, that's right. UMBC was undefeated throughout the American East schedule, right? They lost any game they lost was non-conference.
Exactly, and entering their postseason undefeated, so it's going to be at UMBC Arena. So Stony Brook going to be facing them in the first round, and if they could defeat Goliath, they will move on to face New Hampshire and or UAlbany, winner of that game. So the Seawolves, the fourth seed. Yeah, and it just was, just UMBC entering that volleyball game. They have played phenomenal volleyball, the best, undisputedly, in the conference. So many great players like Grace Rigsby, second in the conference with 140 kills, is hitting 264, which is the seventh best overall. Mia Buselic's probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Her 183 kills, averaging about 4.3 per set, leads the conference. And Angela Draskovic, 468 assists, averaging 11 per set. Now, this team is untouchable on the attack. And for Stony Brook, they played really well defensively, and their back row is going to be tested a whole lot in this UMBC game. But if they're able to hold on, that they'll have some key attackers like Abby Campbell, who has 100 kills, and Amanda Long, who has 106 points on conference season, to back them up.
That's right. So